Good evening. Good evening. This Board of Education meeting of March 25th, 2013 is called to order at 6:01 p.m. Could I please have roll call?
Ms. Bowles?
Here.
Mrs. Kraut?
Here.
Mrs. Funderburg?
Here.
Mrs. Buckley?
Here.
Mrs. Beard?
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Here.
Mr. Thied? Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board members, you have an amended agenda in front of you. We need to make 2 more additions to that agenda, please. The next item of business would be approval of the agenda. That would be item 3A. And then after item 5B, we need to go into executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as corrected.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve the agenda with the necessary changes. Support.
Been moved by Mrs. Funderburg, supported by Mrs. Buckley. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature by the Board of Education and will be acted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items. If any member of the board or any citizen requests discussion of an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will become the first item of business under the report of the superintendent portion of the agenda. A, to approve the minutes of the Board of Education of the regular meeting of February 11th, 2013, the regular meeting of February 25th, 2013, and the regular meeting of March 11th, 2013. To approve the personnel actions as submitted by Rebecca Peck, Director of Human Resources, including retirement of a transportation supervisor and transportation secretary, 2, and an employment of a GSRP aide. And finally, to approve the bills for payment as submitted by Sherry Papazaglou, Director of Business and Operation, in the amount of $3,167,542.25. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support. It's been moved by Mrs. Buckley, supported by Mr. Thied. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is report of the superintendent. Dr. Daniels?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start out by offering a hearty congratulations to our basketball team, Coach Oates, and yes. It was one of those kinds of games that you like to see. We took out and got the lead and never looked back. So we want to again congratulate all of the coaches and our athletic director, Mark Whitson. We'd also like to announce that Thursday will be Eagles Day, not only in Romulus Community Schools, but in the city of Romulus. So we are encouraging everyone to wear maroon and white that day, and any Romulus High School garb that you may have, and really have a great celebration. We also wanted to announce that our basketball team will be honored by the state legislature coming up in April, so we'll keep you apprised of that. So we're really pleased with that. Tonight we're going to have a presentation from Wick Elementary School, so we will turn it over to them now.
Make sure you use the microphone, please.
Yes. Alrighty, good afternoon, good evening, our Romulus board and all of our Romulus community staff, parents, and community people. I am Ms. Miller, the Student Council Advisor for Wick Elementary School for 2012-2013. Behind me as our official clicker is our principal, Mrs. Johnson, and we have our wonderful student council members. And as I do double duty, I'll only be up here for a little bit, I'd like for them to wave so you know exactly who you have in front of you right now. We have Miss Anaya Pickens, our president, Charles Eldridge, our vice president, Justin Lambert, our treasurer, Cameron McQueen, Gladys Camden, Kiara Matthews, and Tabitha Cheney, who are our class representatives. So they are going to present to you right now. Thank you.
So you want to hold an office. In order to run for an office for student council, you had to have a BC average, write a resume that included community service and work experience, submit 3 letters of recommendation from a school employee, a community member, and a family member.
Our school election was held on Monday, November 5th. It was one day before our regular election because, of course, school was out. Students voted for student council offices and for the U.S. president as well. And of course, at our school, Barack Obama was president in our election also. This is an example of our ballot. I will let this young lady, because this is her slide, come and finish this part, please. Come on up. You can stay right there where the mic is. There we go. You're finishing about your ballot. That's Gladys Camden, our other class representative. Perfect timing.
Here is an example of our school ballot. Each student, kindergarten through 5th grade, voted. We even had volunteers from the community to work the polls. Even board member Mr. Theed worked the polls.
In the month of December, we had a gift collection for the Redford Methodist Children Home Society Orphanage. There were 21 boys housed there, and we were able to make the holiday season better by donating toys and items for them.
In January, some of us braved the elements and honored Dr. Martin Luther King by participating in the Romulus Community MLK Walk and Breakfast. We were able to warm up with a nice breakfast at the high school.
While your Christmas trees were coming down, ours were going up. For the months of December through March, we have our Wick Warm Winter Tree, where we donate items on the tree, and if the children need them, they can ask their teachers to go get scarves, gloves, and mittens. And unfortunately, our tree is still up because spring has just not come. I know the date was here, but it has not made.
We partnered with the board office and Ms. Daniels, our superintendent, and spread some love to our hometown heroes during the month of February. All students made Valentine cards for the Romulus fighters, Romulus Police Department, Romulus Senior Center, U.S. Army Reserves. They also received a container full of Valentine's Day cookies. We even received some nice thank you letters.
Our Pennies for Pasta penny drive benefiting the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society was a success. Our total was $1,829.60. Mrs. Adams' second grade class came in first, Mrs. Small's second grade class came in second, and Mrs. Redmond's fourth grade class came in third. Our top winning class receives a crated pasta lunch from Olive Garden.
What our student council of Wick Elementary is doing right now, well, we have started a book study on Stephen Covey's book, The Leader in Me. We are working on chapters 1 and 2. This book will help us become better leaders and show us how to work with parents and the community.
We have a few things that are coming up soon. They are Hoops for Heart, Wick's Got Talent, Spirit Week, and Romulus Citywide Cleanup.
Students have found out what is going on with Students Council in many ways. The Student Council bulletin board outside the gym, the WIC monthly school news slider letters, Mission Possible meeting, morning announcements.
Thank you so very, very much. That was absolutely wonderful. And we see your student council is doing fantastic things, and you are the leaders that we will be looking to as you continue to matriculate through Romulus Community Schools. Thank you again. Let's give them one more hand. We will next have a presentation, the service learning project that's going forth. And Mrs. Mitchell, she can come up and do the oversight.
Well, good evening. This is just a great evening to share some of the wonderful things that are going on in Romulus Community Schools. What I'm going to introduce to you is a collaboration between Madonna University's Bachelor's of Social Work program and Barth Elementary. And I'm going to introduce to you Professor Wiersma, who's going to tell us about the program, and Mrs. McDonald, who's going to speak to the benefits to Barth, and then they're going to share a short video with you. Thank you. Mrs. Wiersma?
Well, thank you for having us. It's been a really nice opportunity for Madonna University to work with Barth Elementary. I want to extend a special thanks to Sandy McDonald, because she's facilitated a lot of this, as well as Diane Golka, who is the principal at Barth. So it's been a really nice partnership from my perspective, hopefully from theirs as well. But Madonna, I just want to tell you a little bit about our mission, because that served as the impetus for what we know as service learning. And Madonna's mission has 4 core components, and the first one is related to this whole idea that we instill within our students humanistic values. We also wanted our students to really respect the diversity of others, to have intellectual inquiry, and then the final one was service learning. And service learning was really that final component where the university took a lot of time and said, you know, how do we show our communities that we want to be a part of our communities, that we want to give back to our communities, that we want our students to understand that this is really important. So the social work program itself decided that we wanted to have a large part in this process, and it also reflected social workers' core values that are related to service and social justice and those sorts of things. So we decided to incorporate service learning into 2 of our classes, and the class that I'm teaching right now is Practice 2, and it's about groups and families. So we looked for community partners that would provide our students with opportunities to learn about group dynamics, as well as to provide some sort of service to our partners. And when I approached Sandy, she was very gracious about allowing our students to come in and provide a service to them. So I'm going to turn it over to Sandy.
And we were thrilled to get the extra support. We had a total of 6 students that worked at Barth during this time. They put in 30 hours. Some of them are still working on their hours, but they put in 30 hours each, volunteer work. They came in and they did They went into a lot of our special ed classes. They helped out in there. They also went into some of the general ed classes and assisted. They worked one-on-one with kids that need that extra attention and don't always have the support. They good initiative. They just came in and saw what needed to be done and did it. And the thing I think I appreciated the most about them was they would share things with me afterwards about, you know, it's good to have a neutral eye come in sometimes and see how we treat our students, and they were able to give us constructive suggestions about ways that we could maybe encourage some of our kids better. So it was just an excellent opportunity, and I was thrilled to do it. And we're going to show you just a little clip that the preschool room put together of some of the stuff that they did. So thank you for letting me speak. And I'm not technology savvy, as you could tell. We downloaded it once already. It wouldn't play before. Well, maybe we're not. Yeah, instead of that, it was really cute. It was Mrs. Wiersma, Miss Wiersma, Professor Wiersma's sister is the teacher in the preschool room, and she put together a clip, and it was really cute, and I'm sorry that I can't get it to work.
Well,
but
as an
for whatever
alternative, if you can forward that email to Dr. Daniels, she can send it to us, and
Excellent.
we can watch it
I
at
will do
home.
that.
Absolutely,
I
we'll
will
make sure we do that.
Okay. Did any of the students want to share anything, or probably not? They were great, and thank you.
You get one,
Oh, come here.
she'll fall on the sword.
Apparently, I'm the talker of the group. So. First, I want to start off by saying thank you for letting all of us come into Barth Elementary. I know I'll speak on behalf of the other three. We had a great time. I'm still working on some of my hours, so I will be going after today. I know it was a great experience for me because I was in a different location last semester that was not in an elementary school. It was actually in a LGBTQA community. So this was a whole different experience for me. I came in with a little history behind it. I have a son who has autism, so it was nice to come in and see a different school district, how things are run. Everything looked great there to me. One experience that I had was there's a young boy who signs in one of the preschool rooms, and it happened to be that the teachers were doing, you know, other things with different children, and my son is nonverbal, so I can sign, and they were having trouble getting him to sit down, so I said, sit down, and I signed it a couple times, which sit is this, and he responded, and that hit home for me because I could communicate with him, and he was happy, you know, so I'll remember that the rest of my life, that I could communicate with this child that may not have gotten that if I wasn't there. So that was my experience. Everyone have a good night.
I think they figured it out.
So
I think they got it working.
Sounds like it.
all for being with us, and thank you for the service you've been providing. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to go into executive session for purpose of negotiations update.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we go to executive session for reasons stated.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Buckley, supported by Mrs. Funderburg. Mr. Secretary, could I please have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Ms. Kraut?
Yes.
Ms. Funderburg?
Yes.
Mrs. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Beard?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Theed, yes.
We are in executive session at 6:20. For the audience's information, we will recess to another room. You don't have to get up and give up your seats. We should only be a few moments. Thank you. The board will entertain, the chair will entertain a motion to go back into regular session, please.
So that we go, return back into regular session.
Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Funderburg, supported by Mrs. Kraut. Mr. Secretary, could I have roll call, please?
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mrs. Kraut?
Yes.
Mrs. Funderburg?
Yes.
Mrs. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Beard?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Theed, yes.
We are in open session at 6:53 p.m. Board members, the next item on the agenda is reduction in board member compensation. What is the board's pleasure? You have a
I
topic
move that the
sheet.
Board of Education reduce the board members' compensation budget by 10% until further action is taken by the Board of Education.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Kraut, supported by Mrs. Funderburg. Are there any questions? I'm sorry? The board just took a 10% pay cut.
From like schools and stuff.
Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Next item, Dr. Daniels.
And the next item is the bond refinance resolution.
Sherry, did you want?
Some mics on?
Yeah, the mics are on.
Yes, I have a Troon Law Firm here
Mhm.
that will be able to run through the bond agreement with you if you have any questions. So I don't know if you want to do that before or after you put a motion on the table.
We could probably go ahead and put the motion on the floor and then
Sounds
have
good.
him do a presentation. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the refinance bond resolution as presented by Sherry Papazoglu, Director of Business and Operations.
Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Funderburg, supported by Ms. Buckley. Now, Sherry, if you want to introduce the gentleman.
Chris Imerino is here from Troon Law Firm.
Good evening.
You all should have a packet in front of you as well. It's in a black binder.
John, you're going to need to do a roll call on this. You're going to need to do a roll call.
Good evening. Christopher Imerino with Troon Law Firm. And this evening, I'm here to present and explain to the board the resolution that you'll find. There's a black folder in front of each of you. Looks like this here. There's a resolution inside. I'd like to briefly explain to you what the resolution is and why I'm here this evening. The district's board did approve back in November of 2012 a resolution to seek to refund or refinance is a different way of saying it, the district's 2003 refunding bonds. And since that time, a pricing has occurred with regard to that refunding. And here this evening to present the resolution for approval by the board, provided the board moves forward with this, we have a closing scheduled for this Wednesday, the 27th, to refund those bonds. So what I'd like to do is have you take a look at that resolution, and I'm just going to basically walk through it to explain what it is we're asking you to consider this evening. If you look on page 1, you're going to see right in the middle of page 1, 4 paragraphs identified as the whereas section. It basically describes how we got to where we are today. References that November 26th resolution in paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 identifies that Stiefel Nicholas was designated as your district's underwriting firm. Paragraph 4 identifies that the underwriter, Stiefel Nicholas, did present an offer to purchase the bonds back on March 13, which the superintendent was given the authority to accept. And then in the now therefore section, starting at the bottom of page 1, We identify the particulars of the pricing. The new bonds will be designated as the 2013 refunding bonds, and they'll be issued for $10,200,000. The pricing detail is played out there, identifying the price that the underwriting firm is paying, the underwriter's discount, and the premium that they're also paying. If you flipped to page 2, up at the top, paragraph 2 identifies that the bonds will be dated March 27, 2013, and there will be 3 maturities, 2014, 2015, and 2022. Interest will begin on these bonds November 1 of 2013, and there's a schedule attached as Exhibit A that spells out how the financing detail will work. Paragraph 3 identifies that these bonds will not be callable. You won't be able to refund these bonds. These will go out to maturity. Paragraph 4 identifies that blank bonds may be issued. We use those in the event that there are trades or transfers of the bonds on the secondary market after the initial sale. Paragraph 5 identifies that U.S. Bank National Association will be your escrow agent. What the escrow agent does is they take the substantial proportion of the monies on the 27th of March, they invest them for you, and on May 1 of 2013, your old bonds will get paid off with the proceeds that are put into that escrow account. If you flip the page, top of page 3, paragraph 6 identifies what happens with the monies on the 27th. 6A identifies the payment of the cost of issuance out of the bond proceeds. 6B identifies that deposit to the escrow fund to pay off those bonds on May 1st. Paragraph 7 authorizes the President and Secretary to issue the bonds, sign the bonds, and present them. Paragraph 8 approves the issuance of the preliminary official statement. It's the financial prospectus about your community and your school district. Looks something like this. This is a copy of the final version. In that paragraph, you're approving the prelim version that was used for the pricing. Then in the next paragraph, the superintendent is authorized to issue that final version at the time of the sale. Paragraph 10 authorizes all of the board officers as well as administrative officers to sign necessary documents to make the transaction go forward. Paragraph 11 authorizes those same officers to take any actions necessary to make the deal go forward. Paragraph 12 identifies that U.S. Bank National Association, same entity that's your escrow agent, will also serve as your paying agent. They're basically in charge of distributing the funds when it's time to pay monies on the maturities. That is the sum and substance of the resolution. I did want to point out just a couple of things with regard to the pricing. The threshold for taking a refunding bond forward, you want a savings to your taxpayers of at least 2%. On this deal, your taxpayers will realize a savings of 15.15% on this issue. So what happens is this is not money that goes into your general fund. This is savings that your taxpayers realize. It will come off the millage that is paid over the duration of the bonds for the debt service on the bonds. But that translates into a net present value savings of $1,545,427.70 that your community will realize as far as tax savings go. So that's the resolution that we do ask the board to consider this evening. I would ask that at time for vote, if you would please do a roll call vote so it can be accurately recorded as to the vote. I do make myself available for any questions that you might have right now. Be happy to answer any questions you might have now, or as you deliberate and you come up with one, let me know. I can certainly answer it then.
Anybody have any questions?
I got questions. Go ahead, you can go first. I just want to be sure, like, we're not extending these bonds out any later than we normally had to pay them by, correct?
No, ma'am, you are not extending them out any longer than what you otherwise would have had to pay them. The original bond, the 2003 bonds, went out to May 22. This new issue only goes out to May 22. And in fact, what you're doing is you're reducing that borrowing amount that's outstanding because of that savings that I described. And that also translates into a quicker payoff with your school loan revolving fund balance. So it really is kind of a double win for the community. But to answer your specific question, no, it doesn't go out any longer.
Ms. Bowles?
Okay, I need some basic information.
Please, ask away.
Okay. I just want to know, okay, I'm just trying to understand the contract in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it looks like this is a sort of a refinancing.
Yes.
So are we asking for shorter, we're asking for shorter or less payments at a shorter time, or how does that work?
Let me draw a kind of a comparison with a home, okay?
Okay, now I can work with that.
Absolutely, sure. Homes often have like a 30-year mortgage, right?
Okay.
And so what you often do with your home mortgage is you can refinance it at a lower interest rate.
Right.
Still out for the same duration, but a lower interest rate.
Okay.
That's what you're doing with these. The bonds are going to be outstanding for the same period of time, but the interest rate is now lower than what it was under the 03 bonds. So that means your taxpayers have to pay less money to pay the debt service over time. And that's how you realize that 15.15% savings over the life of the bond issue.
Okay. Now, if we don't refinance it, what's the repercussions of that? How does that work out?
Means your taxpayers would still be paying exactly what they were going to pay before, but you miss an opportunity to reduce the cost for your taxpayers.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Mr. Thie, could you please do a roll call vote, please? The motion was made by Mrs. Funderburg and supported by Mrs. Buckley.
Ms. Bowles,
Yes.
Ms. Kraut,
Yes.
Ms. Funderburg,
Yes.
Mrs. Buckley,
Yes.
Mrs. Beard,
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mr. Thie, yes. 7-0.
Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Thie, you're going to have some paperwork to sign so the attorney can take with him.
I think
I
we're
think I
good.
did it.
You did already?
We
Never
already
mind.
did on that.
Okay, so-
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Board members, the next item on the agenda is the potential of moving Community High School to Romulus High School. What is the board's pleasure?
I move the Board of Education approve the move of Community High School to the Romulus High School building, with noting that we're gonna have the same securities like we did when we added the 6th grade to the middle school.
Support.
Discussion?
It's been moved by Mrs. Kraut, supported by Mrs. Funderburg. Discussion, Mr. Thie?
I know Mr. Hurd was here and everything like that about how the move's gonna be in a separate area and things like that. Can we relate to some of the community on that?
Okay, Rebecca,
On how it's gonna work?
Rebecca, you've worked with him. Would you like to share?
If that's okay?
Yep.
Sure, absolutely. We took some time to go over to the high school. We worked with high school administration as well as community high school administration to figure out where in that building we could house a school within a school concept. And just let me reiterate to the board, a school within a school concept is just that. This will be a separate school operating within the boundaries of Romulus High School. Even though their address will be the same, it's a different school code, it's a different student ID, their start times are different, their end times are different. Their student movement is not with the traditional student population. We did find a location that would best serve both the high school and community high school in an upstairs hallway. It has a separate entrance. We can block off areas. It's an area that we can kind of encapsulate that school within a school so that they stay within the boundaries of their school property, as well as utilizing the high school property, the common areas, not at the same time as our traditional programming. Not sure what else I can go into detail with.
What is our student count over at Community High School now?
Right around 100.
100 for the high school students. What is the GED program, the adult program is
That's a
being
tough
moved as
one.
well?
That's a tough one because we probably serve anywhere between 400 and 500 individuals, but that doesn't equate to full-time equivalents. So there's a number of students that we serve, and that's a during the day, daytime program and an evening program. We would not have adult ed programming operating out of Romulus High School during the day. They're already seeking alternative locations to provide adult ed services during the school day. We're looking at Romulus Library, we're looking at some other local Romulus areas to partner with for our adult programming.
Okay, Ms. Peck, could you explain why how this came about, why this recommendation was made, and why we're doing it?
It really came about for financial reasons. Right now, the program is operating in its own building. The cost of operating itself independently is really prohibitive for the board at this point. We still see a significant value of offering the program and having a non-traditional learning setting for students that learn better in that setting, but we can't justify the expense of having it operate in its own building.
Which means we will be closing that building.
That is correct.
And that's due to a 50% loss of students.
We have gone from, in the last 5 years, we've gone from 300 students to less than 100.
But I mean, the big drop was last year.
Correct.
But now we have to make this adjustment because we've had the student population adjustment.
That's correct. Now, I also want to point out to the board, and I know I've had this conversation with many people, so forgive me if I've already said this to you or anybody in the audience. It's our belief that the current system of alternative education, which is that through which cyber schools or online programming, many school districts are jumping onto that and offering that through offering alternative programming. We don't feel that that's the best academic model for at-risk students, the high-need students. So we do feel that those programs will eventually start to fail, and our student population will start to increase again.
What is the capacity over at the high school? What's the maximum, and then what is our student count now?
We could go up to 150 without compromising traditional programming. So we could expand to about 150 and still stay within that framework that we've originally designed here. If we go beyond 150, we'll have to ask the board where else we can go, where else we can manage the program.
That's for the community high.
That's correct. Adult education programming, as I said, we will not have any adults in the high school during the school day.
Mhm.
They will be utilizing the high school in the evenings for GED programming and testing.
So technically, it's just a temporary fix.
Perhaps. It
It could
depends.
be. It
could
depends on
be.
how the numbers go.
Exactly. If our numbers could grow beyond 150, we're going to have to seek an alternative location.
Any,
And that would be a problem that I would love to have.
and Mrs. Beer just said, this was one of the items that came out of the redesign
That is correct. Thank you.
conversations.
That's where I was going with that.
Are there any additional questions?
Have we considered just looking into some of the other elementaries as well? Because I know it was a presentation done a while back where you were looking at the enrollment numbers of some of the other elementary schools, and you were looking at which ones had less enrollments versus the ones that had more enrollment,
Right.
and which students had already went to or had decided to not be at Romulus Community Schools and go on to some charter schools. So I'm just trying to find out, have we looked into seeing other alternatives? Because, I mean, I just kind of feel that was we'd be defeating the purpose of why it was in a separate school in the first place, in regards to whatever the issues may have been for the students to go there. So I was wondering, has anybody thought about that?
Yes.
Maybe having the 5th and 6th, 7th and 8th in one building, and then just having K through 12?
That was part of the
It's-
redesign.
And
I'm just
determined-
asking
it's-
that.
Yeah, it was determined that would be cost prohibitive as well, because you're looking at different transportation routes, you're looking at restructuring buildings, and we're not in a position to expend the resources to do that.
But there is a possibility we might have to reconstruct anyway because of our debt.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I mean, right
Down
now.
to 3 elementary schools.
Right.
Oh, it's possible.
It's possible.
Depending
It's
on
very
student
possible.
enrollment. Depending on
Enrollment
student
goes down,
enrollment. That's correct.
Okay.
Are there any further questions? Hearing none, the motion is on the floor. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
Nay.
motion carries 6-1. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is the approval to seek RFPs for identified classifications. I will start off by saying that we will put a motion on the floor. I will allow people from the audience to speak, provided you do so in the same respect that you were shown, and that there be no threats, no shouts, that we're all big people here. I understand, and this board understands, that this is a very emotional, sensitive issue. And speaking for the board, if there was another alternative that we felt, we wouldn't even have this on the agenda. This agenda item tonight is only to authorize the administration to seek the cost. This is not a finality. This is a step in a process. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to put it on the floor. I will move that the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the superintendent to seek RFPs for transportation, custodial, maintenance, security, and safety monitor, and food service classifications. Is there support for the motion?
Support.
It's been supported by Mrs. Beard. Board members, do you have any questions or concerns?
For
Is this discussion?
Yeah.
Yes. Mr.
I
Thied?
can start, yeah. Like Mr. McLaughlin said, I don't think none of us support all of this. I mean, we are facing a difficult time, but we owe it to our people over here that come with us with suggested cuts. And we have to get the numbers, because to me, if it saves a pocketful or millions, that's what we have to look at. Obviously, our own people do a better job. So this is not, like Mr. McLaughlin said, a finality tonight. It's just a process we have to go through, and not saying that none of us support this or not support it. It's just a thing that we have to do, because these people are the ones that have to recommend cuts to us, and we're the ones that have to decide on the cuts. So basically, that's all I have to say on that.
Anybody else?
I think, go ahead.
Well, I just have always felt that cuts should be equal and across the board, starting at the top and not chopped at the bottom, so I have a hard time with this.
Go ahead,
I
Ms. Walsh.
also feel like there was a $2 million debt, and then now it's up to $7.6 million, and that's just a lot of money. And I feel like, the same way, I don't feel like this is the correct way to go. I just think that right now, it's been too much excessive spending, personally, before we even got here to where we are now. And so I also feel, as I've stated before, just like Ms. Kraut, that if you're going to start doing the cuts, you got to start from the top.
As this board is aware, we did start at the top this year. With that, I guess the easiest way is if people want to line up, because I'm sure there's several people that want to speak. Is there anybody that wants to speak to the board? Go right ahead. Use the microphone, please.
There's a microphone right here.
Do I have to use that?
Yes.
Ma'am. Well, the people at home can't hear you if you don't use it.
The top switch, probably.
Hello.
No.
That's it. There it is.
Can you explain to me what an RFP stands for?
Request for proposals. Well, I mean, I don't know what else.
I guess it makes no difference whether it's basically if we propose the asphalt company to come in, correct? It's just to get numbers.
You're getting quotes.
Yeah, you're just getting quotes. There's nothing finalized on nothing. It's still got to be a decision after everything, but it's unfair to make any kind of judgments without those numbers.
Good evening, board. I'm not sure if it's on.
It's the top button.
Yes, you guys are looking for proposals to have bids for transportation, food service, custodial, correct? You guys are looking for some cheaper work, because we have a deficit. Well, this will be the second time that I done been through that. That's what they did with my husband's job. They looked for people so they can negotiate, and we lost everything we had, everything. So when you guys are out looking for your proposals, you're already looking. I just feel that you already have somebody in mind, or some type of company already ready to jump in and take our spots We have families, we have homes. I know you guys, maybe you understand, but we work hard. So when you go home to your family tonight and do whatever you're doing, just say, remember those people that voted us in and those people who support us, because we see many of you guys outside of this board setting with family functions, and we support you. But I just want to let you guys know that this bid that you're looking for is already in the plan. So you guys already have an agenda, and I'm sorry. That's just real. This will be my second time. This time I won't have anything.
Anyone else?
So, okay, my question would be, along with the numbers you're looking for, has anyone thought about going to these districts that have already tried this and found out how it's working? Because you know what? I have yet to hear of a district that is outsourced, that it's working. You're going to get your numbers. You're going to get really good numbers. You're going to get really, really good numbers. And you're going to look at those numbers and you're going to say, we can't not do this. And you know what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years? Those numbers aren't going to look quite as good as they did this year. And a couple of years after that, they're not going to look very good at all. And a couple of years after that, they're going to look pretty bad. And I'm telling you right here, right now, because I'm all over Wayne County. You go to Northville. You go to Plymouth Canton. You go to Garden City. Go to Detroit. Ask them how it's working now. Because they're losing their ass. There's not one of those districts that's recovering money now. Not a one. And you can take that as fact. So when you're getting your numbers, make sure you get all the numbers. And when you're looking at them numbers, you stop and think about the people here. You know, you guys took our jobs last year. You fired us. You fired every one of us in this building in the back. You had the best employees ever, and you ruined us. Because you know what? I don't care anymore. I come in, I do my job, and I leave. Because you guys broke my heart. I loved this job, and you ruined me. And now you're going to play it again. When you needed your millage passed, who was here for you? Who was here for you when you wanted your money? You have yet to ask Local 64 for money that we haven't come up with it. We've took our concessions. We've canceled pay raises. We got your millage. We have done everything you have ever asked of us. If anybody can name one thing that you've asked that we haven't done, please tell me now. But when you bring in them outsiders and you're like, damn, just isn't working. We need a better deal. If you think they're going to pony up, that's not going to happen because they don't care. You got the people that care sitting right here in these chairs. They're the only ones that care. And if that's not worth a couple of bucks, there's something wrong there.
Anything else?
Good afternoon. It's the top button. It's fine.
Good afternoon. I am Dawn Bonham, 28474 Oakdale Court in Romulus. Born and raised at 5932 2nd in Romulus. Married to a bottom at 6049 South Wayne Road. Born and raised in Romulus. My kids went to Romulus. I have a student at Western University because of Romulus, going for chemical engineering on scholarships right now. I would just like to express the fact that I'm a little disappointed that no one came to Local 64, because I am a board member and I'm on the negotiation team. No one came to us and asked us anything
That's not
about
true.
concessions.
That's not true. We're not going to get into a public bargaining.
I just
that is not
received an
true.
email about sitting down.
That is not true.
I just received an email Friday about coming in to set up some dates to come in and talk about this. I just received it Friday. We were not brought in about this. So I think it's putting the cart before the horse, as they say, because no one has sat down with us yet.
Because your union said no. Your union asked for an 8-year right-to-work extension without agreeing to concessions.
I'm confused because
And
I'm on
not
the negotiation team and
I'm
I
not
never
going to
heard of
sit here
that.
and bargain with you, but that's public information, and that's all I'm going to say.
I'm not going to bargain.
But
I'm
it
just
is
saying
absolutely not
it was
true.
not brought to us. I'm on the negotiation
Well,
team.
Then you need to discuss that with your union leadership.
I am the union leadership,
Well.
and it wasn't brought to us. But anyhow, just received the email on Friday about sitting down with Ms. Peck. And again, we don't have an issue with that. We will sit down and do that. We have always taken concessions. We have always taken it for the team, and because we live here. Our kids go here. Our taxes are paid here. And a lot of us graduated from here, and we're dedicated to Romulus. And I really, really hate to have to move because if I lose my job, I've got to go, which means our kids go too. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Hearing none. Mrs. Williams? Mhm.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wasn't going to speak, but Mr. McLaughlin, this is a very emotional time for these employees. The young lady that just spoke, whether you understood what she was saying or disagreed with what she was saying, sometimes you have to put your feelings to the side and be a big boy. You can't disrespect at a time emotions are flying. You can't do it. We, as people, put every last one of you individuals in the seat that you're sitting in. You wasn't born in that seat. You promised that you would be a voice for the people. This problem didn't start just in the last couple months. This is an ongoing problem. I've said to many of these people at the polls, I'm sure they know me by my face, I wasn't saying no because the school didn't need it, but you cannot continually put good money on top of bad money. And that's what the previous administration was doing. Not the administration here, not the new board member, but the ones that was here. You knew this day was coming. That's what I was telling you. I seen it through a crystal ball. I don't know what you was looking at. But to disrespect these citizens, these school workers, is a no-no. It's a no-no. And you should apologize to her and be a big boy about it, because she was up here and her emotions is flying. She's a woman. She's not an animal. She's not a piece of meat. So you should have just let her speak. She's a union representative representing these people here. What you guys have on the table to do is going to affect many lives. I've been saying that for a while. It's going to affect many lives. And as the young lady that just left said, if she lose her job, she take her kids. If more and more kids leave, where do it leave you? You have no position. So in whatever you guys come up with, You have to be very respectful and very cautious of how you deal with these emotional employees and citizens. Thank you.
Mr. Thied?
I mean, I just got just a few comments, and this is not to get on anybody's comments to us, because you all, are entitled to that. But I don't think nobody really knows how I feel or how these people feel about this. I'm not a big fan of outsourcing. I've said it all along, okay? The numbers, and I don't mean it to make it sound bad, but I need those. I'm sure some other board members know. For my hopes is to get all the locals back in, because we've already got the teachers settled and there is a savings there, in hopes that we get the numbers for what they are offering us, for we can at least try to go back and get some more from all the other locals, at least get us that step closer to keep everybody working, okay? And I can't make a rash decision without those. And so that's my hopes, that we get Local 64 back in. And I know they're not up right now, and the other locals that take more. And that's it. So, I'm not a big supporter of outsourcing, but I can't make a decision until I get that. And then we know what to go back and ask for. And I know everybody's taking cuts, believe me.
Any other board members with questions?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. We have, in a sense, been at this juncture before with having to make really tough decisions. And, I know what you're going through, because my husband is a city employee in Detroit who has an EM right today coming in that can cancel out all contracts if he sees fit to do so. So the unsurety of being able to pay your bills, or, having a roof over your head, or food on the table, or, clothes on your back is a reality. And it's my reality now. And so, I empathize with everybody in this room on the decision that I have to make this evening. But one of the things that I think about also is that I need to make sure that I am armed with enough valid information to make the right decision. And if that means that we give them permission to go out and to get information on whether or not it would be more cost effective for us, and not even cost effective. How about just, we're talking about realities and about being able to make your rent or make your mortgage payment. How about the fact that I need to make sure that if we are going to outsource, that we get you as close to what you're getting now as possible, and not having to take a loss, so that the gouge or whatever the difference isn't a big, huge amount, or if it's going to be a little one, or how about no difference at all? Because at the bottom of the day, it just matters whose name is at the bottom of the check when you go to cash it. Are you getting the income that you need in order to survive? So that's my rationale. I need to make sure that I'm making sure that we make the best decision to keep you all as stable as possible. So, that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry to come back up here. I got a couple of questions. We've had 2 administrators positions recently vacated. In the rehiring of those 2 positions, what cuts or concessions were made to those positions? And I am speaking of superintendent and director of transportation.
Director of Transportation, I don't think has been finalized yet. We're still
Posted.
I understand that. The salary has not been determined yet. For the superintendent, the Board of Education, through the public meetings that we did have stated that the salary range that we were looking at was between 121 and 130.
And what was the previous superintendent making?
157.
Okay. For, what have we got now? 4 elementaries and 2 upper? 5 buildings? 6 buildings. $150,000 a year, plus all of his little bonuses and perks and now when we were, what were we, 9 buildings, 10 buildings? What was the superintendent making at that point?
I have no clue. And I'm not going to sit here and debate that with you. Because that was then. We are dealing in today's realities.
So we're half the size and we're still just boosting that salary up.
It's not being boosted, it's being reduced by about $30,000. Next speaker,
Okay.
please.
The next question I
Mrs.
had.
Skinner, that's enough. You've exceeded your time.
Wow.
Yep. Nope. You can speak after everybody else has had an opportunity to speak.
I don't even want to have this thing in my hand. I might use it.
You need to use it, please. I will not recognize you speaking without it. Thank you.
The people at home need
They
to
need
hear
to
it.
be able to
It's
hear
for
the
the-
dialogue.
All right. I stood before this board at Wick Elementary some time back because you were threatening to privatize the Romulus transportation for special needs children, for which I have one. I had 3 other children at the same time that are enrolled at Romulus Community Schools. I told you then, if anybody other than a Romulus resident pulled up in front of my house, they could keep going. My children would no longer be transported or going to Romulus Community Schools. The only reason they go here now is because there are people that pick them up, feed them, and take care of them every day at school. They have a vested interest in this community because they all live here. If there's a Trinity driver or a Chartwell staff that's feeding my child because it's the cheapest thing they can put on the plate instead of what's good for them, no, my child won't be here. You'll lose 4 more. And you have a minimum enrollment now. How many do you think you're going to lose when you privatize everything and nobody gives a rat's butt about what goes on in the school? Except your almighty dollar.
Anybody that hasn't had an opportunity wishes to speak? Rhonda? You're welcome to continue. Thank you.
Okay. Has anyone ever heard the phrase, you got to spend a little money to make a little money?
Yeah.
Our money problems come from mostly reduced enrollment. What are we offering a parent to bring their child here? We've got outdated textbooks. We've got computers that are broken. We've got teachers that are 100 years old. We've got school buses. What did you say last year, Rob? Looks like Sanford and Sons out there? To quote you directly? What are we offering parents to bring their child here?
College?
You want to make some money? Give these parents a reason to bring their child here. Give them something to bring their child here. Our past superintendent came right out and said he would never send his child to this district. What kind of superintendent is that?
A former one.
You got a little girl heading for school. You want her to go to Romulus schools? It's here for her.
I think there's a lot of good programs going
You
here.
know? Well, you guys has got kids here.
My daughter goes here.
What do we
She's
offer
staying
her?
here right now.
What do we offer them? What are we giving these parents to send their child here? Besides cuts, 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 old stuff, outdated stuff, and more cuts.
I mean,
You got to give them something.
yeah, I mean, a couple weeks ago, we approved the early college, and that was one of our points, that we're spending some money for the early college to get the FTs up, to get people here in hopes that we bring the money into
That's
the
awesome.
district.
And you're going to gain a couple of kids from that.
Right.
And that's what you've got to do. You've got to find out, what are we going to do? Not keep cutting. How do we get them back? We've been saying this for years, and I have yet to hear this board say anything about this is going to drag in thousands of kids. Where's your studies on that? Where's your numbers on that? Give them something. You want to know what we've got going, what we can offer parents? You got 60 people sitting out here that'll pick their kid up doggone near door to door. That's why you got people sending their kids here. They don't have to worry about them on bus stops because we pick up darn near every kid in the district at their doorstep. Now you want to cut that. What are you giving these parents to bring their kids here? Half the people sitting here, half the people send their kids out of the district. They work here. You guys run the business, but you send your kids elsewhere because we're not offering them anything. You got to spend some money to make some money. Proven fact. Quit cutting and start giving. Give them a reason to be here. Get your numbers on that.
It's a tie.
Once Rhonda said, what do we have to give our kids? I got to say, Rhonda, I gave your daughter a good education. I did. So there's a lot of people out here that we are providing an excellent education to these students, and others don't know about it. We do have textbooks that are current. We do have computers that are working. We have elementary schools that are rocking. Romulus Elementary School outscored everybody on the MEEP except 2 schools from Wayne Westland, Belleville, Flat Rock, Huron, Taylor. 2 schools outscored Rommel. That's what we're giving those kids. We have to stick together, and cure this. It's not their problem, it's our problem. How are we going to solve it? What are we going to do? Our community. Stick up for it, stand behind it, don't give up. I'm also a resident. My kids went through Romulus, and I am proud. Stay there. You guys are doing fine. Keep looking for cuts. Thank you.
Rob, can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
What happens if we don't go out for bid?
If we don't go out,
I'm just asking, I'm asking administration.
Yeah,
Not you.
I'm clarifying the question. If we don't go out for RFPs, what is the ramifications?
Sherry, would you speak to that?
At this point, the district on March 11th was determined to be a deficit district. At that point, the district has 30 days to file a deficit elimination plan with the state of Michigan, Michigan Department of Education. That plan must show over the course of 2 years that the district is out of deficit. It is my obligation to submit a deficit elimination plan to the MD. Upon probably about a week, they will turn that around to ask for clarifying questions, and they may ask for increased or reduced expenditures to meet that deadline. So that's the timeline that you're faced with right now.
If we don't read it in 2 years.
If you don't meet it in 2 years, the district is subject to not receive state aid payments. If we do not receive state aid payments, the district will not be in an operation.
Sherry, what happens if we don't have a plan submitted in time in 2
The district
weeks?
will cut off state aid the moment we don't. So if we don't have it in 30 days, we will not receive our over $1 million, it's about $1.6 million a month, in state aid for the month of May. By May 20th, they will not be sending money to the district.
Any further questions? The motion, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize, Kim, sorry.
It's not on. You'll hear it kind of click on. It's a top button.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Meyer. I'm Romulus Security Safety Monitor. I might make chump change, but I am not a chump. I've been living in Romulus since '74. I was raised here as a student. I raised my children here, and now my grandchildren here. I've seen a lot of things. What I've noticed mostly is overpaid administrators, from principals to board office members. If you're willing to support our community, then you should be willing to support your own pay cuts as well as ours.
And like I said, I mean, and like I said, once again, to reiterate this, just to go out for these bids may not even be worthwhile. Well, I mean, don't think I've already made a judgment. That really irks me that people think they're in my head that I've made a judgment already. I'm the last one until I get all the facts, and I'd rather keep our employees. I've said that all along. So, without these numbers, it may not even be worth to outsource people. We keep our own people for about the same price. We don't know. But to answer to the state, I mean, we have to show something that here's what we're trying to do, whether we do it or not. I mean, the night to be here would be when it's actually on the agenda that we are going to outsource. That would be, I hope everybody would be here beating us up on that night, verbally. But tonight it's just may never go nowhere. I mean, they may bring back these numbers and we say we don't care about them. We don't want them.
Right.
So-
But then also too, even, we're talking about what we have 2 years to get out of a deficit. And if we don't get out of a deficit, then we got an EM coming in making the choices anyway, and we'll get rid of all the contracts, period. So, I mean, do you rather have somebody like us who live in the community, who have kids in the community, who know you all making the decisions on how to keep you as restored as possible, or just some stranger who comes in and say, I don't give a fat cat what you making, oh well, get it done.
That was close.
And like I said, and to be fair to our business manager, if we don't give her that, and to be fair to our business manager, she has to make these recommendations. It's up to us to vote on them or not. And she's going to have to be the one that answers when we don't have the funds. And if we're the ones that say no to outsourcing, it falls on us, really, if we don't have the funds. So.
Just to show you how serious the state is, once we file that deficit elimination plan, every single month I have to file a report to them to show our progress. Talk to districts that are in deficit. Talk to them about what the state's expectations are at this point. And Ms. Buckley or Ms. Funderburg hit it right on the head. They will send an EFM. If you do not show progress, they'll retract the deficit elimination plan, and they'll be in here as soon as they can be here.
Yeah, and we're all for coming up with stuff. I agree with you. I've been saying all along, our curriculum, we need to get students back. And so far at the early college, we're attracting some people back that enrolled students already. So that's a slim little chance that that's happening right now, that we're getting at FTEs, and we're getting people who are bringing their kids back to the community. Just the last week, we had more enroll. So, like you said, we're spending some money.
Not allow the figures that you're paying out to board members, to other people that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Our tax base does not support that, but it still keeps happening from principals on up.
Are you talking board members, or are you talking?
No,
I think she's talking board administrators.
Yeah.
Okay, keep saying board
And those were salaries that were set in, and those were salaries that were set in motion way before a lot of us even got on this board. You're talking 10, 20 years ago, these, right.
Right.
It's very unrealistic when we as taxpayers know what we're putting into the system and we see what you're putting out. It just doesn't balance. And then you come at the lowest on the totem pole to fix that problem. You're grasping at straws. I mean, start where you have the fat to trim. You can't scrape the bone. You got to start where it's fat.
Well, I agree. Everybody should.
Show some figure cuts.
Yeah.
Start where the figures are.
And they are starting at the top.
14% from teachers.
Teachers.
14% from the teachers.
Well, they were the first up.
Everybody else
That was our first bargain.
everybody else will be following suit. Everybody else will be following suit.
This is unrealistic for our
Yeah,
tax base.
it doesn't matter.
I just,
Okay, before,
can I say something?
go ahead.
I just want to say this is very emotional for anybody to think that there's something preconceived in my head that I've already made up my mind. That does bother me, just like Mr. Thied said. I have to make a decision. I need all the facts. I would do the same thing in my household. It's just being responsible to every citizen around. It's not, we have to look at for every citizen around. I understand this is emotional. I haven't slept. I probably don't need to eat, but I haven't even eaten, and I know you guys probably don't even care about that, but having to make these decisions it's very hard. And this is just to go out, just to get numbers. This is not even doing the actual vote on it. Right, and so I know that.
No, that's wrong too. I don't know what this is going to lead to. My vote's not decided.
Right. So whatever, I can't say anything, I'm speaking for myself to make you think that I don't have this in my head already, but I don't. So I think we've, over the years, have shown you, we even put a resolution on the floor to never privatize. We did that. We've been doing that for years. But we at least need to get, to me, I just need to look at the numbers and to think it's not an emotional decision and that we don't care about you. I look at faces in this audience that I dearly love, and they know who they are, and it's been very difficult for me. I'm crying at night, just looking at things, and this is just to get numbers. This is not even doing the actual fact. So for you to say that, to tell me that I have this in my mind already, that's just not fair. Now, you can say whatever you want to say, because I know that that's your right, and it's your job. I understand that. But I went through the same thing that you're going through with GM, but I don't have a job. So to say that we don't feel it, that we haven't lost something, that's because you don't know everybody's situation. So that's all I'm saying. And it's just to get, so we can make an informed decision. That's all it is. But I'm speaking for myself. And I know how this board feels, how we've always felt about this. And we've always directed administration, don't even say that word. Don't even talk about it. But our backs are against the wall. And I'm not saying that we're gonna do this. I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm against it. I'm telling you. But I need the facts. That's all. That's all it is for me.
All the numbers there.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. The other communities, I agree with what you say.
And that's what we do. We didn't go out and ask other districts how it worked because we didn't even think, we don't know that we're gonna do it. Why I need to ask somebody how something's gonna work if I decide that I'm not gonna do it? So if we'll get all that information. Okay, how's that working for you? We haven't done that because we didn't even think about doing it. This is just
We
to get
haven't
numbers.
wanted to do it. I mean, we have put this off and put this off and put this off to the point to where now our backs are against the wall, and it's like, now what? So do you stay into a $7.6 million deficit and just lose the district, or,
Outsource administration.
figure it out? And so those are the things that we
Save the big money.
and I mean, and you talk about administration, part of our administration has a union just like you do. So they get the opportunity to negotiate like you do. And so, I mean, those are other things that as a board, we have to take into consideration. So, I mean, I just don't think that we're just up here and we've already devised a plan and it's like, oh yeah, well, we're just gonna do what the heck we want to do and, just whatever. It's not like that at all. And I almost take offense at being accused of having had that, because that is not it at all. Because I attach faces to the decisions that I have to make. And I think about what I'm sowing, because I might be reaping it in my own household. So, you can best believe that I take this particular stuff to heart. This impacts me. It impacts my psyche. It impacts the fact that I can't sleep at night. And like Cheryl said, you probably don't care about that, but that's okay. Because I care, and I can't turn that off. But I want to make sure that I am armed with the evidence and the material that I need so that I can make a good decision. It may not be an easy decision, but I want to make a good decision.
Thank you, board members.
And like I said, if our mind was made up, we wouldn't even be here discussing getting numbers. We could vote right on it, and none of us want to vote on it because we don't know for sure. And like Danielle and Cheryl said, my bus driver's in the room right now, and she got me to school every day nice and safe. So we know the value of our own people doing a job.
That's who's fault it is. Thank you.
Oh, she's getting up right now. And then I could be bad on the bus because she'd have coffee with my mom and I'd get whipped. So,
Thank you, board members. Before we go on with the vote, I do want to say something because as I've shown in the past, I do own things when I step over. Dawn and Rhonda, sorry, I'm about to get emotional. I'm sorry. This is emotional for us too. We have been agonizing over this for months because we know the impact this has on our friends, on our people that take care of our kids. And again, do I always manifest it in the right way? No. But I think most of the people sitting in this room know me well enough to know that if I thought that there was another viable alternative, this wouldn't even be on the agenda. I would be screaming like I did at Wick, like I did at Corey when this was discussed in the past. Every one of us here remembers those conversations. And, I apologize if I came off too harsh. And that's all I have to say about that. Ladies and gentlemen, the motion is on the floor. It's been moved by Mr. McLaughlin, supported by Mrs. Beard. The Board of Education accept the recommendation of the superintendent to seek RFPs for transportation, custodial, maintenance, security, safety monitor, and food service classification. Board members, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
The motion carries 5-2. Board members, do you need a couple minutes?
Yeah.
This meeting is recessed until further notice. This meeting is now reconvened. Next item on the agenda. Board members, this is the approval to seek RFPs for the human resource services, substitute lunch monitors, etc. If you recall, this is it's seeking proposals. It's time for the PCMI contract is up. So it's time for us to see what cost savings there might be in getting other vendors. The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Buckley,
Support.
supported by Mrs. Funderburg. The motion is the move the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the Business and Operations Director to seek RFPs for the human resource services.
Not this.
Yeah,
Just so that we're clear, this is something that's already been done.
Already in place, yes.
We've been doing we have to do this how often, Cheryl?
Well, we don't necessarily have a contract it's an annual contract. The contract that they presented to me has increased fees. And so it's time to go out and look for another vendor. We may find some savings there. Again, I can't tell you exactly what that is. I know right now we save over $100,000 by providing with PCMI right now for them to provide the services. So we're just seeking an alternative, cheaper way to do things.
Keeps everybody competitive.
Correct.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. Next item on the agenda is the renewal of the contract for school financial solutions. Board members, if you recall, this is a contract we entered into last year for shared time services. We provide shared time instructors with parochial and other schools. And we share the FTEs, and we pay the school solutions a percentage of the FTEs. To date, we've received 39 FTEs. So this is obviously an income generator for us, and the administration is recommending that we renew the contract. It was set to expire May 1st of this year. They're recommending that it be extended May 1st until May 1st of next year. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I move that the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the Director of Business and Operations Director to approve the agreement between Romulus Community Schools and School Financial Solutions, LLC, for the 2013-2014 school year. The rationale is potentially generate revenue by adding FTEs.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Funderburg, supported by Mrs. Buckley. Are there any further questions?
I have some questions.
Mrs. Bowles?
Yes, I just wanted a little bit more understanding of exactly what this is. I'm gonna kind of put a little bit about looking at the contract, what I think it is. Where I'm wrong at, please let me know so that I can put all the pieces together. Okay. Now, looking at this, it looks like, from my understanding, it is the consulting company. Okay. And from one of the emails that I received from one of the board members, it said that we are making money servicing other schools with this service. And as it was said, it is a 39 FTE. So far, am I correct about that much? Okay. Now, I want to find out, first of all, if you can let me know, I got a little bit of the information earlier from one of the board members trying to explain to me what it was, the terminology of what an FTE is. But if you can clear it up a little bit so I can, and then I can let you know what my other questions is, because they all kind of follow off of me first understanding what is FTE.
Okay.
Because I don't know what that really stands for.
So FTE, and this is a little bit confusing because it refers to two things. FTE refers to a full-time equivalent. That's the acronym. So full-time equivalent. In this case, it refers to the full-time equivalent student. We also have FTEs in the human resource world of staff.
Okay.
And those are full-time equivalent staff. This one is for students, Ms. Bowles. So when you see one full-time equivalent for a student, the FTE amount for Romulus is?
$8,392 per FTE.
Say it again for me.
$8,392 per full-time equivalent.
Okay.
So you can do the math on that one. 39
Okay.
times 8,300.
It's $327,000 that we currently are bringing in revenue due to this program.
Okay. Okay. Okay, and then I looked a little further in here, and it was saying, and the reason why I'm asking these questions is because I tried to look online. I tried to look up the company itself, School Financial Solutions, LLC. I couldn't find no information on it. And it said Livonia, Michigan. It didn't have an address, so that just really even more put me at a loss of just trying to just get basic information off of it so that I wouldn't have to ask so many questions, and I had that information for myself. But if you can also explain to me about the shared time program, what is that, and a little bit about how does that affect what are our shared time programs that we have?
Okay. So first I'm going to explain just shared time in general, how
Okay.
it always has been for many years, and this is governed by Michigan School Code. Parochial schools, so these are private schools, school districts are allowed to provide teachers for specials that your program offers. And when I say specials, I mean outside of your core curriculum. So for elementary, for us, it would be art, gym, music, computers, foreign language.
Okay.
So these are the types of classes that we're providing teachers for, into parochial schools only. For many years, it could only be parochial schools that were in your district or parochial schools that bordered your district. So for example, for many years, we had Huron I think it's
St.
Huron.
Stephen's?
St. Stephen's in Huron. So that was a place that we provided a share time teacher, and then we had our local one here in
St.
Romulus, St.
Yeah.
Al's, which I think is closed.
Closed.
So then a
Okay.
period of time went by, Ms. Bowles, that we didn't have any share time. There was nobody to share time with. Then legislation opened up the boundaries on that. And
Okay.
said, okay, you no longer have to touch, your school district no longer has to touch that school district in order to provide these services.
Okay.
Because I think what was happening, and I'm just assuming here, is that many school districts chose just not to deal with the staffing of that.
Because it wasn't cost effective.
It wasn't cost effective. When you're talking about, maybe a half of a teacher shared between two different buildings,
Okay.
it's just not cost effective. So then they opened it up and said, okay, if you're in Wayne County, you can go ahead and serve anybody in Wayne County these bits and pieces of programming, that's what we're doing now. So we have school districts in New Boston, in Allen Park, in Detroit. We're servicing parochial schools and affording them similar special programming as we do in our own schools, and this company facilitates that for us. So they go out and they seek the employees. We hire them because by law we have to hire them through Romulus Community Schools. So they are Romulus Community School employees because that's part of the Michigan School Code. But that also means that we get our FTE amount.
Okay.
So, some FTE amounts for students are less than others.
Okay.
Romulus's FTE amount is that $8,300 number.
Okay. Okay.
Is this getting a little bit clearer for you?
It's getting a lot more clear than what I
When we saw that opportunity to go out beyond our local community, when Mr. Pilon, who's the owner of this company, brought this to our attention, we looked at that and said, okay, what's it going to cost us? And there's no real cost in it other than HR costs, and we've absorbed that with our own system. So we haven't hired anybody in addition to support the share time service. We do that all with our existing staff. He goes out and builds the relationships with the parochial schools, and he basically sells them, hey, do you want this programming for your kids? It's a win-win situation for them because now their kids are getting these special programs, and it's no cost to them.
Okay.
And we're receiving the FTE from the state.
But we don't, do we have to pay him for his services?
He does, he takes a percentage of, and I believe it's a 7%.
Is that, okay.
It's written in
So,
here.
Yep.
With that 7%, what does that dollar amount come out to be?
This year it's based on your fall FTE, so the 39 FTE that Mr. McLaughlin quoted was our winter FTE.
Okay.
This contract is based on whatever the fall FTE count was, and I believe it was 25 or 26, and she's just quickly doing the math for me right now.
Okay.
That's what he got paid for the 12-13 school year, what she's about to tell you. 13-14 is the rate didn't increase. His payment is probably going to increase because he's already grown the program up to 39 FTEs, and he's also working on a number of other parochial schools right now to kind of get them into the fold, and we'll be hiring those staff over the summer.
It's about $14,000.
Okay. He's actively been working.
Now the program, if you were to look at the revenue that I mentioned earlier, about $327,000, and deducted off his fee and the cost of the staff that we're sending to those buildings, we're still ahead about $227,000. So this is a revenue generator for Romulus. And the nice part is we only fill the amount of time that they need. So if they only need a 3-hour Spanish teacher 2 times a week, that's all we give them.
So, I don't know what it's called. Help me with the terminology again. But for me, I'm just gonna say it basic, okay? When you go and you look at multiple companies to find out which company is willing to give you the cheaper rate. Is it bidding? Bidding they call it, or?
You're talking about requests for proposals or getting quotes?
Yes, yes. Okay. Has there been any other ones that we have used, or has there been anybody looking into other ones that we can? I'm just trying to find out, making sure that we getting the best deal for. Right. So
Right, well, this was brand,
single source
this was
vendor.
brand new when we
Okay.
first went into contract with Mr. Pilon. There was nobody else that provided this service. So we went with him because he was the only one in the game. I think what you're asking is now the time for us to look at an
Right.
RFP for this product as well.
Right.
I would probably, my recommendation would be for us to engage in another year contract with Mr. Pilon, and then perhaps have that discussion with the board, mid-year next year. Is it now time for us to go out to bid on this?
Can I ask you this question, and would kind of piggyback off of hers, and I guess it would almost be a con, is that, but then we would lose the.
We would.
The FTE.
We'd have to start over
Yes.
again.
We'd have to
Yes.
start over and not
Start
get the
over.
money, right?
Yeah.
Because he's already got the program
Right.
up.
And he's functional in several other counties too.
He's
So that's
Brighton
kind of,
School
that would be
District.
the risk that we
Brighton
would
High.
take.
Brighton, Brighton uses these services. I mean, I don't know if the right word is elaborately, but
Heartland.
they have
And
a
he-
high frequency of these amount of students that are coming through his, this
He
company to their school.
Actively is working on our behalf.
Yes, he is.
You know, we get a lot of calls from him asking what do we have, because he's going to be meeting with this school or that school, and he wants to make sure that he's current with what our offerings are.
And I would just say that I think a 7% fee is very low.
It is.
Yeah.
I was actually,
you're
when I
doing
saw the
work.
contract, I really expected that he was gonna increase his percentage, moving forward in contract years. I was pleased to see that he didn't, because obviously we would have went back to the table with him. Said, where can we go with this?
But he's been a single source provider for a long time, which means he's one of the only ones, or the only one who has this service. So, and it's not to say that if someone else has not come up, but, yeah.
Would you know if he has a website or?
He does, and I'm
Because
gonna,
I
I'm gonna
didn't
give that
have
to you.
any
I'll
information.
send
I
it to you.
tried. I really
Yeah.
did try to look out and find more information, and I was looking and looking and looking. I was just like, okay, I'm just
I'll
going to
send
have
it
to
to
come
you.
with
His
12
website
questions.
doesn't have a lot of information on it.
I know that there's something there.
Do you know
I've
how
been
long
to
he's
it.
how long he's been in business, or is there a history that he has that kind of gives us a little bit about?
I would say he's been in business at least 3 years.
He was a
He's a
full-time.
former
He's a
superintendent.
former superintendent of a school district too.
Local.
I don't know.
I don't think he works at RISA. He may.
Works with RISA though, I mean, for.
He
But I'll
very
send
well
you- I'll
could,
send the
because
board the
RISA is
website.
one of the
'Cause
people
I
he's
need
trying to
more
bring in on
information.
this shared time.
Because I thought I'd seen this name of this company on their minutes, that's all.
You probably have. Are there any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I would like to abstain because I don't feel like I have enough information
That's fine.
personally.
The motion carries 6 and 1 abstention. Next item is the approval of the appraisal of Merriman Elementary School. As an explanatory note, board members, if you remember, as part of the budget reduction plan, in getting all the facts and all the information, this is not saying that we're going to list the property, but the intent is to ask our real estate agent, the broker that's representing our other properties that are on the market, to give us an official appraisal of Merriman so we can compare apples to apples if we decide we're going to make a move with that property. With that, what is the board's pleasure?
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the Director of Business and Operations to seek an appraisal of the property and building located at 15303 Merriman Road, Romulus, Michigan, 48174.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Funderburg, supported by Mr. Thied. Ms. Funderburg?
Question. I know that I had asked this before. The equipment that we just invested, will that have to be removed
All of
before
that will
the
be
appraisal is done?
It will be removed. Well, what I would do is I would preface the appraisal with the items that I know we're going to be removing from the building.
Okay.
So they'll be listed in the contract then?
They'll be excluded.
They'll be excluded when the appraisal
They
is
do a walkthrough.
conducted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to find out, is there possible we can find the appraisal of also some of the other buildings too, because it is a possibility we might have to look into that, so.
So which ones are you referring to?
Whichever ones that, and I don't know which ones, but I do know that, like I said, when you all did the last presentation that you had in regards to enrollment about the different elementaries, there were schools there that had certain amount of deduction in enrollments. I would think I would want to look at which buildings are the oldest. I would look at what equipment can be moved around. That kind of give us more of an idea of how we can get the best use of all the buildings that we have.
Is the board ready to go in that direction?
To recommend the closure of an elementary?
To
or
recommend
get the
appraising in
appraisal?
preparation for the
Is there an
possibility in the
additional
future.
fee for them to appraise
There is no
all
fee.
these buildings?
There is no fee.
I don't think it'd be information that would be, I mean, yeah, we can, does
When's the
anybody
last
have
time
an
that
objection
we've
to
had
us giving you?
appraisals on our building?
I don't think we
May
ever have.
2000 and, well, yes, we.
On all of them?
On all of them, no. You know, I could give an estimate based on insurance costs because that is something they come out to do. But sometimes that's not the same as having an appraisal done from a
an
marketing
active building?
standpoint. I'm sorry?
So you're talking about doing an appraisal on the high school, the middle school, and the
Well,
four
that's
elementary
what,
schools?
it's maybe being offered, and again, I wouldn't, I don't wanna
Yeah,
make
I
that
think
decision, I think that's the board's decision.
Okay, elementary.
If you're prepared,
Just
okay.
elementaries, not high
Well,
school. We
then,
can't close
then
the
I
middle
would,
school.
would the maker of the motion and the seconder of the motion be willing to amend the motion to seek, to get an appraisal on the 5 remaining elementary schools?
Yes, so I will change that to include the other 4 elementaries as well. Does that include Corey for the Head Start program? How, haven't we had one done on that one as well?
We did not, that
I would
property was
include
never up for
even
sale.
that building as well.
That's kind of why I said 5,
Oh, I didn't hear that part. So 5 buildings
plus Merriman.
plus Merriman, so that makes it 6. So just so that we're
That's
clear.
agreeable with Mr. Thied?
That's Romulus, Barth,
fine.
Wick,
Yeah, it's free.
Rommel,
Hell Creek,
Hill Creek.
Merriman, and Corey.
It's just information at this point. Hearing no further questions, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. The next item on the agenda, again, part of the deficit elimination plan, is the reduction of 1 social worker for the 2013 school year. What is the board's pleasure?
I move that the Board of Education, actually, I'm on the wrong.
That's the NEA
Okay.
layoff.
Yeah, elimination of 1 social worker for the 2013-14 school year. The rationale is the implementation of deficit elimination plan. Support.
Been moved by Ms. Funderburg, supported by Mrs. Buckley. Any questions?
Yes, I had some questions earlier in regards to the workloads of how many we have now, what that will take us down to as a district, and then there are caseloads, the concern of making sure that those caseloads aren't, that we can service our children.
So let me start the conversation off, and then I'm going to refer to Ms. Mitchell.
Okay.
We currently have 4 social workers. The recommendation is to go down to 3. We've had a reduction in students over the course of the last few years that support going down to 3 social workers. Understanding that some of the counseling services that the social workers are performing will fall back onto the high school and the middle school counseling department as well. So we're looking at balancing and reshuffling our workloads with all of those staff members. So Ms. Mitchell can explain more with regard to the special needs students that are served through the social worker department.
You have to get the mic.
No.
It's the,
We might have ran the battery out.
It's the top button.
Okay.
Yeah.
As far as special education mandated, we must have social workers. However, there's no caseload numbers attached to social workers. So we can't there's no determination whether or not their caseloads are too high. We still, fortunately, up until this year, still have 2 buildings that have dedicated social workers. What'll happen when we go down to 3 is those buildings will no longer have dedicated social workers. They'll still have social workers in their buildings. All of our buildings will. However, as Mrs. Peck said, those buildings where social workers are dedicated do have counselors, so some of those duties will be distributed. And as always, when there's a crisis in the district, we always allocate our resources to those buildings.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, again, is part of the implementation of deficit elimination plan. It's a recommendation of the administration to eliminate the elementary Spanish program. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the elimination of the elementary Spanish program for the 2013-14 school year. Rationale is the implementation of the deficit elimination plan.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Funderburg, supported by Mrs. Kraut. Are there any questions?
Yeah, discussion.
Okay, let's start with Ms. Funderburg, and then we'll go with
I'm
Ms. Buck.
probably asking some of the questions that the other people have. Are we going to be able to put something in place that will supplement for the reduction that we're about to do? So, I mean, I know that we were discussing it at a prior meeting and Rosetta Stone came up. So, I mean, is there anything that we have access to as a district that could kind of facilitate the absence of this particular position no longer being in our district?
We're trying to explore a number of things. Included in that is even some special funding through grants, as a possibility. But yes, we are trying to look in to see what other kinds of programs might be available that we can use to make sure that we try to keep the foreign language in the school.
Yeah, because I know this was one of the value adds that we added on when we consolidated, when we moved our 6th grade population over to the middle school. And so that was definitely one of the things that we were able to put in place to offer a value add to the district. And I hate to have to get rid of it, but I mean, if we could find something or put something in its place that could facilitate for the absence of the body, because isn't this particular person servicing all 4 elementaries? And could you kind of explain what that looks like for the school year? Because I know when they had the music program, they would do like a semester at one elementary, and then they would go to another elementary, but it would be like certain days. So they would do the north side on a couple of days a week, and then they would go and do the other side the odd days of the week for the program. So if we could kind of explain what that looked like.
So I'm going to explain, but I'm also looking over
I know, right?
Mr. McLaughlin's schedule over his shoulder. With the Spanish program, we do 1 day a week. Each of the 4 elementaries receive 1 day a week for the full year.
Okay.
And then in that day, the Spanish teacher goes into each of those classrooms in the elementary building. Right, Mrs.? Grades 4 and 5. 3 through 5. Thank you. Couldn't remember how far down we went. 3 through 5. And then on Fridays, what happens, Mrs. McNally?
We split half, so half the semester we'll have an extra half day a week.
Okay.
Another school have
Okay.
Okay.
So the students regularly are receiving between 35 and 55 minutes of instruction each week in Spanish, and that's what will be removed from their curriculum offering.
But it's still offered in the middle school, correct?
It is still offered in the middle school and the high school.
Okay.
I guess this was always kind of my baby. I wanted this so badly. Because it's a value add and it brings people to the district. So I just want to make sure that you know, we're looking at
We
the
are.
offset of it, and to make sure we have a replacement for it, that the savings is
Yeah.
worth it. Like, you know, like Ms. Skinner would say, you spend money to make money to bring people in. So I'm just, you know, if it's worth us keeping, or if it's something that the administration can do to replace it, but.
Well, like I said, what I'm also trying to do is to find other funding sources, you know, grants that support, you know, many of those extra things, but foreign language is sometimes one that's out there.
How many students are we talking taking this? Is
Every
it
elementary,
every
every elementary grades 3 through 5.
We have a lot of parents come specifically for some stuff like that.
I don't have data to support that question. I'm not sure.
Can we get any principal feedback on that? I mean, on the parents' thought of the foreign language in elementary school? You get any feedback?
I think they enjoy it a lot. We haven't observed any.
Well, I mean, because it's one of the things, I think I mirror what Cheryl said too, is when we did the study on how many students we lost last year, it seemed like the majority of them came from elementary school. And getting some of these programs here to keep people into our elementary schools are important too.
Because you really.
If I could just make a comment too, that one of the reasons that we added the Spanish as a value add at the elementary level was kind of to maintain the connection from the elementary to middle school to high school. And at one time there was a disconnect, and we thought that of all the value adds, the foreign language would be one that would be a draw and an attraction. In the absence of that, I'm not sure in terms of special programs other than that we have something that outsiders could see as an important area to
Good points.
it's a tough one,
Mhm.
but
What's
and
the
then
same?
the world where now
122.
thought is that the students need to have exposure to more than just the one language. It is a requirement of high school,
It's 15 students.
It is.
Is that high school? Is that the high school?
Yeah. Miss, what, thank you.
It's a tough one. I don't know if you want to have
Right.
One
day a week.
Because, I mean, if it's even aligned in our curriculum, if it's required at the high school, I guess it said,
Like in middle school.
it's hard.
It is.
This is my baby. I can't say keep saying it's my baby, but I know I really before,
Can I ask
this board was kind of here and I was here, was kind of really pushing
you-
for that value add at the elementary level to bring people in to make sure that, you know.
Another question. Dr. Daniels, I know a lot of times with the grants, they say that if it's a program that we have up and running, then a lot of times you're not awarded grant money. Would that, us dissolving it now and then probably reinstating it later, would that, I don't want to say lessen,
You're
would that
talking
increase
ab-
our chances of,
You're talking about supplanting.
okay.
And there are some grants that happens.
Okay.
The kind that I'm going after won't necessarily have that, but what will help is the fact that we did have it, we can no longer have it now. So sometimes that will be something that's a positive, that's saying, okay, well, you had it and we want to help you keep going with something. Yeah, so that is a definite possibility.
Are there any further questions?
And it would be a part of restoring a value add.
I would just stay again, and you know, board members have all said this. These cuts that we're doing, not one of us likes these.
Not at all.
These are the unfortunate circumstances that we're in. And if there's ways to reverse any of them through grants or alternative funding sources that won't hit general fund, that's absolutely what the intention of the administration is. So, you know, I just don't want anyone thinking that, you know, we're just doing this and it doesn't impact us, especially with, you know, the board direction on the Spanish program in the first place. If there are no further questions, all All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
The motion carries 6-1. Okay. Board members, we placed on the agenda the next two items for discussion. Given the lateness of the hour, do you still want to have the discussion tonight, or do you want to postpone these two items, pay to play and middle school sports program? Do you want to postpone those to another meeting? I know emotions ran kind of high tonight, so I don't want people in an uncomfortable situation to have a conversation.
Do we have a special meeting Thursday?
6
That's
o'clock.
later in the agenda, we'll decide. I don't know yet, Sherry hasn't, we may not know until Wednesday if we have, is that fair?
I think that,
Because
yes,
it-
that's fair.
The purpose of Thursday is to finalize what she has ready to go to the state. Because the board will have to.
I mean, the report's in progress now. You have to basically go back, just to give you a little bit more understanding about the deficit elimination plan, where I have a second. We basically have to go back to 11-12 and give them the data that's actually happened in 11-12, what we anticipate 12-13 looking like, and 13-14. So it's not, you know, it's a 3-year look back, basically, or 3 years of information that I have to provide. And what I need to do tomorrow is take some of the items that were approved by the board tonight and place them into the budget and see what kind of position we are in at that point. If I have follow-up questions, or if, you know, I think that we need to talk again, then that would be probably tomorrow afternoon or Wednesday morning, I could let you know.
So that answers that question. Do we want to have these conversations tonight?
Well, I guess I have a question regarding the pay to play, because before that we were always told that we wouldn't save a whole lot because we generally don't, the children who are free and reduced lunches and can't afford it, we still allow them to play. So are we gonna make it so this is something only the rich can do?
Well, I don't know that I would say that it's something only the rich can do. I've probably only met about 6 rich people in Romulus, and they probably disagree that they were rich. But
Was basically this discussion tonight, or were we
Yes.
gonna get any kind of handouts to explain how the other communities around us do it?
Well, we did have,
Can each district decide how they want to do it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the district can put the parameters on how they want pay to play to look like, whether it is for every athlete, you know.
'Cause if you play tennis or football, it could be.
Yes, and there are some districts who charge for both, and there are some districts who do not.
well,
Now, are any of our neighborhood districts?
Yeah, I have a survey, although I'm not sure I brought it in the room today.
I mean,
You haven't
I
seen
would-
anything?
I wouldn't
The board
mind
members haven't seen
tabling it
any?
If we could get the information on like who's around us that has it, how much they charge, and what's their parameters, and how do they decide how they charge it, if that's even something we want to look at, but.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna talk about it, I'd like to have all those figures in front of us, of at least maybe 6, 7 communities around us.
I have a survey that was conducted, I know it's been a couple of years now. This was conducted in January 2010. But I'm sure, you know, without calling, I'm sure most of these districts still have this policy or procedure active. With the parameters around it, I couldn't tell you. Did you want this information? Do you want to talk about it here?
Emailed. That was probably in the same
This
email.
didn't
that
come
we got
from
the
me. I
community-
think Ms. Bosides actually.
Yeah, but I think I know I saw it at home, so, but yes, we can absolutely send that information out. One of the reasons that it was brought forth tonight to at least get it on the radar was that we're touching everywhere else. And the board has not entertained with any sincerity, or I guess I should say without any impact, pay to play in the past. There's a misnomer out there that if we do pay to play, we have to give it free or reduced to anybody that's on free or reduced lunch. That's a decision of the board. There is no legislation that requires us, because it's not required as part of the academic experience. If we required them to participate in athletics, then yes, we would have to comp them. But there's also the argument, and we'll have this discussion as a board, that they already pay to play because they do all this fundraising they
Hello.
do throughout the year. So, but again, in being fair, that we're looking at every area. Will it save us? No.
That was always the.
It'll make about, if we
That's
do
why
it
we
to
never
the
did it.
fullest extent, you're talking an income of, I think the estimate 2 years ago was $40,000.
Let's say it wasn't, I think that was our.
And
point
that may not be
before,
worth,
to tax our parents and our taxpayers for, for something that keeps our kids, number one, out of trouble, keeps them busy, and that generates a lot of scholarships
Right.
for our parents, that's why we just.
We just awarded 4 from the
well,
boys basketball.
and I guess part of, I
So
don't have a
I
crystal
mean,
ball.
I hear it.
And what,
I hear what you're saying.
what my point in bringing it to you tonight was, because Sherry's under a timeline, if there's not the political will here, wrong phrase, if there's not the desire, the intention to move forward in that area, then she won't even include it in the plan. That's I get. So if we feel that adamant that pay to play is not somewhere we want to go, I'm not saying we have to take action. By not taking action, we're taking action.
Right.
And she'll leave it out of the plan. But I will caution you that if we don't give her that direction tonight, it may show up there because they're looking at it as $41,700. It's a drop in the bucket, absolutely. So, am I sensing that the board doesn't even want to go there on pay to play?
Well, let me, just so that we can, some of the things that we do know, what is our percentage on our free and reduced lunch?
We're anywhere between, we're not at 90, but between 75 and 77%.
So
Some buildings are higher than others, usually
Right.
at your secondary level, they're
So-
lower.
77%,
Qualify for free or reduced.
right, which leaves the other 25, 30%.
Correct.
Yeah,
27,
yeah.
23%.
You know, so, I mean, really roughly 70% of our community is free and reduced lunch, which leaves other 30%, you know.
Rich.
and-
Footing the bill.
We have a lot.
Sorry.
Footing the bill.
And we have a
Add
twins.
levity.
I'm rich
Come on,
in
We got
smile.
twins and triplets and
Right,
multiple
so,
siblings.
I don't know, I'm,
Just want to make a statement.
I know that other districts are doing it,
Yeah.
have done it. You know, I would almost have to kind of look at the, you know, the districts that I know of that are doing it have a little bit more workable income than we have, I feel, to put in a pay-to-play program. I've heard pros and cons of, you know, you hear the conversation, well, if they can afford to get their hair and nails done and afford smartphones and this, that, and the other, then they can afford pay-to-play. Well, that to me is just that conversation of, you know, how are you going to, you know, criticize how people prioritize their own personal finances? I mean, and just because they can afford those things, you can best believe that it's probably something or some other area that they're probably lacking in that you consider, well, you know, I like to go out to dinner, but you don't see me, you know, that's not physical, other than the fact that you may see me at the restaurant. But maybe that's where my itty bitty bit of discretionary income goes. It doesn't go into my hair getting done or my nails or, you know, smartphone or that kind of thing. So, you know, personally, and this is just how I feel, is, you know, I think that our taxes supplement a program where our kids can go participate and not have it be a form of shame. Well, I can afford to play and you can. And then you have that also that dynamic of, well, you know what, my child paid $200 pay to play. Why are they sitting on the bench? And so-and-so's little child only paid $25 and he's, you know, starting. To me, that's just too much. And it just, and then also the administrative part of who's going to collect the funds. I mean, you know, we already have students who, for our lunch program, aren't, for whatever reason, able to balance, you know, finish paying their food accounts to eat, people to eat. And so now we're adding on, you know, them wanting to play. So I'm just,
I think the direction is pretty
Yeah.
clear, that the athletic program,
But can I just add this? You know, we've put the crunch on other departments. Would it be feasible to say, well, you know what? You're getting $500,000 for the athletic budget. Take that down to 450 or 400 and work with it. I mean, figure it out.
And
So
that's,
I mean, but is that more?
and that
so is that more?
we've been trying to do that.
Is that a better
It could be-
conversation to have?
And I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I think looking at it for efficiencies within the organization, I think is absolutely a way to go. And perhaps this is something that we can mill around, and next time we're at this table, we can discuss if there's a number, or have them come to us with what they think is a feasible number. They can meet with the athletic director.
Right.
And not that he's spending money just because he can right now, but he might be able to notice some efficiencies in the organization. Or, you know, please don't strike me down, but he may say, you know what? At this level, we can do without this team. At this level, we can do without this team. It might come to that.
And just from my perspective, at looking at the athletic budget, just like most of our budgets, they're people. Most of it is stipends for salaries related to coaching positions. There's not much spent in supplies, so what I anticipate, if that's the direction you go, that the athletic director would come back and he would probably recommend reducing the number or types of sports that we have. So just be prepared for that.
Would that also cut, would that also look into the coaches and the stipend pay and all of that as well too?
Athletic coaches,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you know, I see him recommending, the only way I really see him being able to reduce a budget to any type of capacity that's equal to the amounts that we would be talking about now would be to reduce the options, I guess, for students in terms of the number of sports that we offer, which ones that we offer, which is always difficult as well. Keep that in mind.
Is there a possibility you can give us a little bit of both?
Give me more information.
Information in regards to what you were just saying about the reduction in the amount, and also information in regards to the different areas around us and how they are doing the pay to play and what it all consists of, so we can just have all of it in a melting pot and look at it as we go.
I mean, that is something I'm going to have to request from the director of athletics, the athletic director. The other information we have too, we'll just make sure that it's up to date.
So, Chair, we need to know what those cuts are before they, we need to know what those.
Yes, of course.
Because if I know
Of
we
course.
get rid of a boys team, we gotta.
Of course, that's where I was leading to. You know, it's going to be really difficult for you to decide.
You get a girls, you gotta get a boys. So,
That's why I'm cautioning you to that. I understand.
You have to have percentages of female athletes versus male athletes.
Okay.
And how many seniors are we losing on our basketball team? 7?
I honestly don't know that
I
information.
think 7 or 8.
I don't know.
Six or 7.
And like Danielle said, that could be a revenue maker. I mean, we're Class A champs
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
That could entice 2 or 3 students from another city to come in. We have a good program.
I mean, that's pretty doggone good.
Yeah.
Are you talking
Division
D1?
D1 schools, yeah.
And we get the football team winning.
Okay, well, I think you've
Oh,
got
really?
some
Direction.
So more information to come then. Can I just add something? I know one of the board members requested through the board president information related to questioning the auditors in terms of what types of recommendations they had. And I just thought it, because sometimes, when we look at it, you expect those recommendations to come from us, and they do. But, we go to outside parties such as this to get an expert opinion, because these auditors, especially the ones we have, they're auditing 25 different districts that are in similar situations in some cases not. I just wanted to reiterate some of the things that they mentioned, because these are all things that we've discussed here tonight or we've discussed in the past. One is outsourcing. The second was to right-size your district, which we have done in the past and we are continuing to do by closing buildings and moving programs where we have to. One of them was pay to play. His question to me was, how much do you spend in athletics? And are you using a pay to participate feature? And the last one is escaping me right now. There was 4.
There was an email.
Oh, sale or rent of property.
Oh, yep.
And we are there as well. So I wanted to give you some information that although it's uncomfortable that we speak about these things, yeah, it's uncomfortable just to know that there are other experts in the field that are suggesting these things that you're faced with right now.
Because it's happening to everybody.
It is. And if it's not happening to them right now, it will be in the next 1 to 2 years.
Absolutely. Okay, items of interest.
So the middle school,
So,
so are we moving just the middle school?
Yeah, we're moving those two items until we get more data, and they're gonna talk with the AD and
All right,
come
so
up with an
they're
administrative
postponed.
recommendation. Yes. And the next item is the annual MASB Awards Dinner, which is on April the 11th. And folks, if you want to attend, you need to let Anna know by April 5th. If you'd like a ticket for your spouse, they are a $25 fee that the district does not cover. I'm sorry?
Is it? Is it during that week?
This is in our budget,
It's
so,
25 per person.
yes,
right?
yes, yes.
For the- Yeah.
Everybody
RSVP.
pays, but this is
Right.
in board members' budget, but we
For the
can't charge a
RSVP.
spouse
Right.
to this event.
Well, if you can let her know by the 28th.
5 to 28.
Oh, yeah, because we're not
Right.
gonna be here next week.
By Thursday.
That way I can
Absolutely.
RSVP and get the funds.
And we are an honor board. So we don't need a motion on that because that's just a procedural item. And board members, you got a copy.
I'm sorry.
Yes. The update included the RISA, the thank you from RISA on the LIFT program. There is nothing under other.
I have a real quick question about this. The students who are on this letter, did they get a copy of this, just so that they can have something for like a portfolio or like a keepsake?
Did they see? Sue would know that.
Okay, great.
They did.
Okay, good.
in charge of class.
Good question. Okay, there's nothing under other communications and expressions from the public. I did have one from Susie Frederick, but I don't believe she's here anymore. Is there anyone else that wanted to address the board? Hearing nothing, we go to questions and concerns of board members. Mrs. Bowles?
None.
None.
Oh, tomorrow is Student of the Month, I forgot.
Yes.
Tomorrow's Student of the Month, 6 p.m.
Where at?
I know that, well, we have spring break coming up. That's this week. Good Friday is, we start Good Friday.
Yes.
Good Friday. And we'll be gone for a whole week and we'll come back, so. Enjoy your vacations and stay safe.
Just want to say again, go Eagles. I just want to kind of give kudos to Mark and his staff. They worked really hard. And I tell you, on the morning that you went to get your tickets, they had it organized. They had, I mean, it was like clockwork. And the residents were so happy. I think all of Romulus was there, just about. I mean, you could come in, get your tickets, and leave. But they had it so well organized. It was like a well-oiled machine. So I just want to make sure I give kudos to them.
It was very cool too to have the police escort. It gave me goosebumps. It was so cool. I was just watching them, and that was.
I didn't know about that, but that's cool.
I got a phone
Yeah,
call
we got it.
requesting that, asking if something could be arranged, so I called John Leacher, and he said, well, as long as we don't have any drama going on in the city, absolutely, and I believe they ended up bringing
Yeah, it was a
command
police
officers
escort
in.
front and back.
So, yeah, it was difficult getting a hold of the bus drivers, so we couldn't communicate when they were entering the city, but a few of the buses,
When they came back?
when they came back into town, they were escorted in, so, we did try to include all of the buses. I know there was at least one bus that didn't get an escort,
Well,
but,
that was pep band.
we tried, we tried. Very, very true. I passed them going the other way and I tooted and waved, so. Cheryl?
You know, one other thing I wanted to say is that I just want our board members to be encouraged, because this was very difficult, what we went through tonight, and, I said, prayed about it, and, it's just very difficult, emotional, and just, you know, we just gotta hang in there, and then we just gotta just do our duty, and just, we just gotta hang in there, okay, we just gotta hang in there. And the community's gotta hang in there with us. You guys gotta hang in there with us. And, you know, you never know. When you stick together, you can move mountains. So, you know, maybe it'll be a miracle. Maybe I'll hit the lottery and we'll be out of deficit like that. Because I will take care of that. Let me tell you, that'd be the first thing I do. Well, first thing I do is my church. I do my church first, and then I come. I do this. But,
Church only gets 10%. Just saying.
Plus an offering.
we just really need to hang in there. And I know administration is difficult for you as well, so thank you for your hard work and your diligence. And, that's all I wanted to say. It was on my heart, so I had to say it.
Thank you.
Do we plan on bringing the basketball team in with the trophy and recognizing them?
Oh, most definitely.
Absolutely.
You set that up? Some good.
Ms. Beard?
Just basically kind of piggybacking on everybody else. Everybody have a safe holiday, and congratulations to the Eagles and Coach Oates. And kind of with what Cheryl was saying, I mean, I think we all sit here and try to make our decisions on what's best for the kids. At least that's kind of where I'm at. To make sure that there's a good, viable program to keep kids coming here. But we do look at everything. We try our best to look at everything. And I just kind of hope everybody keeps that in mind.
That's it. You know, Nate has a record about 220 something, like 50 losses.
Yes, 226 to 51 is what I saw.
Great record. For basketball coach.
Reminder, everybody, Dr. Daniels left a little note here. The National Honor Society induction is April 16th at the high school at 6 p.m. If you can make sure. Yeah. And also tomorrow at WIC, right?
Is it a WIC? Anna?
Tomorrow? Tomorrow's at WIC, yes. And 10 o'clock?
11:30. That's what I have on the calendar.
I want to say, yes, I will. Yes. I want to say that Ms. Johnson told me that there was something going on with their little ones at 10 a.m. and that we were invited.
Oh, yeah.
I think so, because the lunch is at 11:30, but I believe she had sent something out about 10 a.m. So if you can be at WIC, be at WIC. I guess that's the point. We're always welcome at all the buildings, and WIC is our building tomorrow. So if you're able to be there, by all means. And speaking about WIC, myself and Mr. Thede had the pleasure of being there the other day when Justin Applecator from the Red Wings was reading to our second graders at WIC that had won a contest for the most entries for a reading contest with the Red Wings. And one of their prizes that they'll be able to get next season, because of the lockout, they weren't able to do it, but they get to visit Joe Louis Arena and visit the team. So I think that's kind of cool. And so with that, I want to talk, board members, you know, you'll get a letter from me telling you about the initiatives that you know, I think we're going to go forward with the legislative luncheon that happened on Friday. I want to thank our staff, including Dr. Daniels and Chef Banks and his kids, because they had, and Anna, absolutely Anna, for bailing me out and keeping everything in check. But Dr. Daniels had a plan B in place with Chef Banks at probably a week before our boys succeeded in the championship. And there was no way to forecast, well, other than having the blind faith and, absolutely our kids are the greatest, that this would go on. And what ended up happening is the students in the culinary arts program, they volunteered who wasn't going to go to the game. So they volunteered to provide staffing for this lunch. We had,
National Honor Society.
and the National Honor Society, they were the hosts and hostesses, I think they were all hostesses, for us. We had about 28 people there. Senator Levin's office was represented. He's our U.S. Senator. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We had Senator Anderson, Senator Hopgood, Representative Geis, Bob Ficano was there. We had Mike Conway from the Airport Authority.
What?
Yeah. The theme of the meeting, I was more wood than Bob Ficano. But the theme of the meeting was to reestablish, or in some cases establish, lines of communication, again, reaching out. We're all in this together, and not only do we need to stabilize school funding, but from the state level, we need to, the honest reality is the state needs to generate revenue for schools. You know, that's the long and the short of it. And we have to come up with a plan at the grassroots level that's going to get us and our children taken care of. So these are the conversations that are going to come out of that. Our children represented us so well at this luncheon. You all would have been absolutely proud. Not to mention, you would have feasted. They made us steaks. They made us salmon.
Ice carving.
Ice
We had an
carving.
eagle
Chuck
ice
Eustice.
carving.
Chuck Eustice came back and created
Did he?
created an eagle for us.
Sweet.
I mean, thank you, Mr. Eustice. I mean, it was just a wonderful event. So
And that day, everyone was an eagle.
yes, Dr. Daniels made ribbons. Matter of fact, that one. And I mean, it was, and everybody had conversation, and it was, I think, all positive. We can only move forward. Speaking to, you know, what some other board members have said about tonight being an emotional evening, I know I'm abrasive. I understand that. I appreciate the board dealing with tough issues that are before us. We need to stick together as a board and get the community through this. I think the community is looking for leadership. They're looking for us to investigate things fully, which I think we're doing by the actions we've taken tonight. We're getting the information before we make any rash decisions. I want to thank board members for going through and having the conversations we've had. We've had multiple 4-hour meetings in the last month. And unless there's anything else from the administration, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Support. It's been moved by Mrs. Buckley, supported by Mr. Thied, that we adjourn. Any questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This meeting is adjourned at 8:56. Thank you.